Hi, Ambassador.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, sorry. We're good. Thank you. Thanks for the briefing. A bit of a follow-on, actually, from Valeria on Ukraine.
From whom?
From Valeria
Okay.
on Ukraine. President Putin started this describing it as a special military operation in eastern Ukraine. It's now spread across most of Ukraine. How would you describe what's happening on the ground now? And the UN, Michelle Bachelet, has said that more than 100 civilians so far have been killed, and yet you're saying the Russian troops are not targeting civilians. How do you feel about defending the Russian military when civilians are being killed? Thank you.
The Russian president didn't say it was a special military operation, in Donbass. He said it was a special military operation in Ukraine. Look, we have to understand what is happening. We have to go back into history, and it doesn't start and didn't start even in 2013, 2014. The Ukrainian conflict and the situation has a long history which dates back those years. But when there was a anti-constitutional coup in Kiev in 2014, and the Ukrainian authorities started to persecute those who were not. Would you allow me just a second, because I need to answer this call, please? Just received information that the U.S. Authorities have undertaken another hostile action against the Russian mission to the United Nations, grossly violating their commitments on the host country agreement that they undertook, telling us that they are announcing 12 people from the personnel of the Russian mission, persona non grata, and demanding that they will leave by the 7th of March.
UN diplomats?
Yes, UN diplomats. UN diplomats. They just visited the Russian mission and gave us a note prescribing us to do what they demand. You know that we were raising with the Secretary General the issue of the arbitrage with the host country, which grossly violates its commitments on the host country agreement. So far, it has not been done, but I think it's high time already. This is just hot news that arrived at my attention right away. That's why I took the phone. Sorry?
12 diplomats?
12 diplomats, yes.
Do you know who they are?
Sorry?
Who are they, and who are the most who's the most
I don't know
senior?
the names yet, but the number is 12.
And
Nobody in this room.
Sorry?
Nobody in this room, I hope.
None of you, at least. Coming back, this is sad news, and again another demonstration of gross disrespect of the host country agreement to their commitments, as I said, within the framework of their obligations both under the UN Charter and the host country agreement, and Vienna Conventions, obviously. So coming back to Ukraine, I said that.
sorry, can we just ask one more thing? Did they give a reason?
Sorry?
What was their reason?
I don't know yet. I haven't seen the note. We will give you updates as soon as we have more information. Coming back to Ukraine, as I said, the conflict has a long history. It didn't start in 2013 or 2014, but 2014 marked a landmark, a threshold from what was growing and ripening slowly in Ukraine all those years after their independence, and resulted in a constitutional coup and the war of Ukrainian regime against its own people who protested and who were opposed to what the Maidan regime was trying to implement. For 8 years, we've been trying, unfortunately in vain, to make Ukrainian authorities to comply with the Minsk agreements, and we went out of the way to do so. But from day one, after 2015 in particular, the Ukrainian authorities opted to sabotage first, and then simply to deny and to cancel, to abandon and to cancel their commitments under the Minsk agreements. Before that, they were trying to navigate, so to say, within Minsk agreements, trying to make them the way which suited them, but then it became obvious nothing works. And then in February, in January and February 2022, when the West started to beef up Ukrainian state with lethal weapons, when Ukrainian authorities amassed 120,000 servicemen at the border of the contact line with Donbass, and when they upscaled their provocations against Donbass, shelling and killing people again, we realized that that leads us nowhere, and that's why President Putin took the decision to recognize Donetsk and Lugansk republics and to offer them within the treaty that we concluded with them military assistance. And that's why we started this military operation in Donbass and in Ukraine, which, as I said today in the General Assembly, was not the war started by us. This is the end of war that was started by Ukraine. I think that I think that you all know that we many times we said that we were not planning military operation in Donbass unless Ukrainian Ukrainian authorities and Ukrainian military would directly threat those republics, which was the case, and we have credible information that the military operation was planned, and that was a move that was inevitable in these circumstances.
Thank you, Ambassador, for the briefing. It's Pamela Falk from CBS News. There have been some reports out of the border meeting in Belarus between Russia and Ukraine. What is it, in your view, that would bring peace to Ukraine and withdrawal of Russian forces? What is that? And then a little follow-up to Valeria's question. Country after country are coming to the General Assembly podium and supporting Ukraine, feeling that Russia is the aggressor. What is your view of that, if not isolation? Thank you so much.
Okay. What will bring peace to Ukraine? We clearly said, and that is demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, which creates a clear and immediate danger to us, also within the context of geopolitical stability, because as President Putin said, that if not today or tomorrow, one day in 30 or 50 years, Ukraine might and will perhaps become a NATO member. That will move NATO to the Russian border, and that will be an existential threat for us. And that is something that we will not allow to happen. What will bring peace to Ukraine unanswered? I answered on the talks that were held on the border of Ukraine and Belarus were finished at this stage. The result, the details of that are not known to me, but I know that there was a decision to continue those talks. When and where, I do not know yet. Perhaps in the same place.
But there was some report that there was common ground. Did you hear of any common ground, or what it might be?
I don't know the details, as I said, but I know that today President Putin spoke to President Macron, and he listed those conditions that we demand from Ukrainians. and they are well known, as I said, demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, commitment to its neutral status, not to join NATO, and not to move weapons to our borders. I did not answer one question that Michelle posed to me, which is about reports about 100 civilians dead. There are a lot of reports today, and I said that there are a lot of fake news. There are a lot of fake factories that produce those news. We do not have credible reports on civilian casualties. Of course, war is a bad thing, and anything can happen. But to call this, to consider those reports credible, is very difficult, since we are witnessing and we are encountering massive propaganda campaign. Using, as I said, troll factories that produce those news, to which we referred to in our recent statements on numerous occasions.
So you just referred to this as war. This is now war?
This is a special military operation, which is commonly called. I wouldn't call it a war, because war means an outright military hostilities. But as you know, we announced it and we maintain it, that we are only targeting military objects in Ukraine. We do not target any civilian infrastructure, nor the cities as they report.
Thank you, Ambassador. Sherman Briceby, South African Broadcasting. Can you talk about your relationship with the Secretary General, right? We saw you in the General Assembly on Wednesday. You had a very animated discussion. We couldn't read lips, but we certainly saw the body language. There's been a lot of criticism. And the UN argues that essentially all he's doing is defending the UN Charter that says states must settle their disputes through peaceful means, which is not happening here. So that's one issue. What should the SG do in this instance? And in addition to that, this notion of the denazification of Ukraine. Ukraine has a Jewish president. So it just beggars belief that you are talking about Nazis in removing Nazis in Ukraine when the president himself is a Jew.
There was a criticism on my part, on our part, of the Secretary General for the position he took on the crisis. I do not recall, as I said to him directly and out loud, that he took similar positions in similar cases, and there were many, in fact. Syria, take other examples. There were many where his position was much more subdued, but there was no body language, rest assured. That was a criticism within the diplomatic protocol, which I think I didn't overstep. On the fact that Zelensky has Jewish heritage, it doesn't matter, because real power in Ukraine, real political weight, belongs to the radicals and neo-Nazis who defy the president, who have their own agenda, who rule the ball in Ukraine, in fact. And President Zelensky, who came with a landslide victory of 74% of the population, promising to end the war, first thing on the list of his priorities. But then he was slowly backing off this, and he finished practically playing into the hands of those radical and neo-Nazi organizations, which claim that they represent the patriotic part of the Ukrainian society. He demonstrated that he's weak, that he has no political will and power in the circumstances he found himself in, to resist those radicals who are the main political driving force in today's Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. A follow-up on Russia's calling it an existential threat if Ukraine were to join NATO. Russia is already neighboring NATO countries, so why would Ukraine becoming another NATO country make it more of an existential threat than it already is in your eyes? And secondly, there has been a lot of talk by European leaders about how Russia's invasion, aggression on Ukraine is going to change the European security architecture, not just today, but for decades to come. I wonder if you could comment on your reaction to that. Thank you.
Yes, we are neighboring NATO countries, and that was the result of cheating by our Western partners, who at a time when the Berlin Wall collapsed, and at the time of the reunification of Germany, were telling us that they would not move beyond borders of the former GDR. And our naive leadership at that time, Gorbachev and Shevardnadze, opted to believe them about it. Now our Western partners are vehemently denying that there was any of such, I wouldn't call it even commitments or pledges, even promises. But documents revealed tell us that that was the case. And again, the naive Soviet leadership believed in it. Now we are ripening the fruit of this naivete. And having indeed NATO countries at our borders, and we know that you know that there are that the NATO infrastructure is moving towards Russian borders as we speak. That they are conducting exercises right on the border of the Russian Federation. We've been offering NATO to come to an agreement to move our troops, even for the exercises, at a certain distance, not to provoke each other. And that appeal has been addressed to NATO a long time ago, to which it never reacted. I remember the last conversation between Lavrov and Stoltenberg here in New York at the high-level segment of the General Assembly in 2021, when at repeated reminders by Lavrov to Stoltenberg about that issue, he was evading the question. He was simply evading the question, as NATO did, and all the countries did. The presence of NATO infrastructure around our borders and in the close proximity to it, of course, it is a threat to us, which is geopolitical. That's why we offered to the USA and NATO to engage in serious dialogue on security guarantees. That offer was made as early as recently as I think October, November this year. We sent our proposals in that regard, which included non-expansion of NATO, non-placement of weapons close to our borders, and moving NATO back to where it was in 1997. Which would be, in our view, a fair solution and would bring us to the state of the security architecture, which would be beneficial for all the participants. But we received a reply which basically denied all our ideas in that regard. We were told that any country has a right to choose their allies freely. Of course, meaning Ukraine first of all. But as we said, they are forgetting about another thing which to which they committed in the OSCE summits on the indivisibility of security, which says that security of one country cannot be reached at the expense of the security of the other, and that was a commitment, not just a paragraph in a joint statement. Russian invasion to change European security architecture. I think NATO has changed European security architecture already back after 1997 when it started to expand to the east, contrary to their promises, unfortunately not commitments.
Could you switch on the mic, please?
Sorry. Thank you, Ambassador. Camilla Berglund reporting for Norwegian media, VG. The war is costing more and more civilian life. Today you have bombed Kharkiv and there has been several explosions in Kiev. What are you doing to prevent civilian casualties during your war on Ukraine?
I already said that the reports that are dubbed credible may not be credible at all. We have regular briefings by our Ministry of Defense, which maintains that we are not targeting civilian objects in Ukraine, nor the cities as such. So these reports about bombing of Kharkiv or explosions in Kiev should be verified. We strongly doubt, given the number of fakes that are spreading these days about the issue, as I told you. Explosions in Kiev is not true, because if there are any explosions, these are in the suburbs of Kiev, as far as I know, and they refer to the military infrastructure that the Russian armed forces are targeting.
But we have reporters on ground reporting that there are Russian bombings in Kiev. So
in Kiev. I do not have this information. We saw some footages of buildings partly destroyed, but it was then said and confirmed by our military that it was not our missiles, but either a plane of Ukraine or a wrong missile that went into that building. We didn't bomb residential areas of Kiev.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. I'm Katsujiro Inoguchi, Japanese TV Asahi. So you say this is a military operation, not a war. So when and how do you end this operation? And is there a scenario where you would use nuclear weapons?
How do we end the operation? I said what President Putin said on it. As soon as we have understanding from the Ukrainian authorities that they are prepared to demilitarize it and to denazify, if I may use that kind of a verb in English, that'll be a step towards the end of it. On the use of nuclear weapons, God forbid it, but President Putin ordered to put our nuclear force on high alert because we saw some disturbing statements from NATO leaders in that regard in relation to Russia. So that is a kind of deterrence that we're exercising.
Thank you, Ambassador, for this. We noticed recently that Kuwait supported the draft resolution condemning Russia. Lebanon condemned Russia, but the UAE abstained on that very draft resolution. And the UAE is just taking up the presidency of the Security Council. What do you expect from UAE and the Arab countries regarding this this crisis? And is Russia going to respond to the latest step by the U.S. by expelling 12 diplomats? Thank you.
What we expect from the UAE during their presidency, we expect that the UAE will uphold the the integrity of the office of the presidency, and that it will conduct it in a smooth way and according to. We know that UAE has a strong diplomatic school, and we know their staff, and I'm sure that they will do it. Hopefully, with flying colors in the present circumstances. What was the last question?
Are we going to respond?
How is Russia going to respond to that?
Well, I'm sure that the response will follow because it's a diplomatic practice which provides for a tit for tat. It's not our choice. We didn't initiate it, and I think that the answer will be given, but it's not for me to decide. I have to apologize to you. We are finishing our press conference. Sorry that it was short today, but I think you will bear with me because of the circumstances.
Ambassador, are these diplomats who are being expelled diplomats whose visas are coming to an end?
Sorry?
Are these diplomats whose US visas are coming to an end?
I didn't understand.
As in, are their visas running out and they have to leave anyway, or?
So look, we have many diplomats in the mission who do not have visa extensions. They can stay in the U.S. and continue their job. What they cannot do is to leave they can leave the country, but that's 100% guarantee that they will not come back because they will not get their visa extensions. Who of those 12 have valid U.S. visas today and who are not, I have no idea yet because I didn't see the names.
Okay, we appreciate any further information you can share. Yeah.